Her eyes told me everything. But her lips stayed silent. The first time I saw her, it was in the dim glow of a crowded bar. Music pulsed low, conversations blurred, but she sat in silence, hands wrapped around a glass, her posture guarded. Everyone else laughed, talked, clinked glasses, but not her. Her silence wasn't emptiness, it was louder than words. And then, her eyes met mine. They didn't just look at me, they pulled me in. There was something wild and dangerous flickering in them, something that whispered secrets no mouth dared to speak. I couldn't look away. I crossed the room every step slower than the last, as if something about her demanded caution. When I reached her table, she didn't flinch. She didn't move. She just stared back, like she had been waiting. "Do you mind if I sit?" I asked. Her lips parted slightly, but no sound came out. Instead, her eyes softened, just a fraction, just enough. An invitation without words. That was the first time I realized the truth. Her eyes told me everything, but her lips stayed silent. Night after night, I found her there. Always alone. Always quiet. Sometimes she sipped wine. Sometimes she simply sat in the shadows, watching. Watching me. I should have been unnerved. But I wasn't. I was obsessed. One night, I slid into the booth beside her. The air between us thickened instantly. My hand brushed the back of hers, and though she didn't speak, her body shifted closer. Her breath trembled, her eyes lowering, then rising back to mine with a hunger that burned hotter than any kiss. "Why don't you ever say anything?" I whispered. Her lashes lowered, a secret smile ghosting over her lips. But still, silence. It didn't matter. In that silence, her thigh pressed against mine, her body leaning just enough to make my pulse race. Words weren't necessary. Desire was louder. I knew nothing about her. No name. No past. No story. Yet every encounter pulled me deeper. She'd appear, vanish, reappear the next night as if summoned by my thoughts. She'd touch my arm fleetingly, linger her gaze on my mouth, trace the rim of her glass like she was imagining my skin beneath her fingers. Once, in the parking lot, I reached for her hand. She let me hold it. Soft. Warm. Fragile. But when I leaned in, when I was close enough to kiss her, she shook her head. Lips sealed. Eyes blazing. The rejection wasn't cold. It was delayed fire. As if she was saying, "Not yet. Not here." I should have walked away. Any sane man would have. But the suspense of her silence was more intoxicating than anything I'd ever known. It happened on a rain-soaked night. The storm had emptied the streets, and she was there again, waiting. This time, she didn't let me ask. She stood, took my hand, and pulled me outside into the storm. Rain slicked her hair to her face, her dress clinging to her body in a way that made my restraint snap. She pressed me against the wall, her palms flat against my chest, her eyes daring me. I kissed her. Hard. Her silence shattered into gasps, into trembling breaths, into a body that arched against mine with desperate need. She didn't say my name. She didn't say stop. She said everything with the way her nails dug into my shoulders, the way her tongue finally found mine, the way her lips, silent for so long, moved only to feed on me. Her silence had been a dam, and I was the flood that broke it. We became inseparable. Nights blurred into mornings, stolen hours tangled in sheets, her lips finally free to whisper moans though never words. Even in passion, she wouldn't speak. But her eyes. God, her eyes. They told me when she needed me deeper, when she wanted me slower, when she was close, when she was broken. Yet I couldn't ignore the shadow behind them. The suspense wasn't gone, it had only shifted. One night, as she lay against me, I asked softly, "Why won't you ever speak?" Her body stilled. She lifted her head, staring into me with eyes heavy with something darker than lust. Fear. Before I could press, she kissed me hard, desperate, like her lips were a lock and my mouth the only key she allowed. But even then, no words. It happened when I followed her. I hadn't planned to, but she slipped away one evening, quicker than usual, and something in me snapped. I trailed her through narrow streets until she entered a small, worn-down apartment building. Through a crack in the door, I heard voices. A man's voice, angry, violent. Hers, silent. Not a sound. When the door slammed open, she stumbled out, eyes wide, bruised. My heart stopped. I rushed to her, pulling her into my arms, but she shook her head wildly, trying to push me away. That's when he appeared. A man, face twisted with rage. She can't speak, he spat. Don't you get it? She lost her voice years ago. And she belongs to me. The world spun. Lost her voice? Belongs? Her eyes filled with tears, staring at me, pleading. That was the moment I understood her silence wasn't mystery. It was captivity. She hadn't chosen silence. It had been forced on her. I didn't think. I acted. I fought him. Every blow was fueled by weeks of pent-up obsession, lust, love, rage. She clung to me, trembling, her eyes screaming what her lips could not. When it was over, when he was gone, I held her face in my hands. You don't have to speak, I whispered. I already hear you. For the first time, her lips formed a word, broken, strained, barely a whisper. Stay. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't clear. But it was everything. From that night on, she wasn't the silent stranger anymore. She was mine. Her lips still struggled with words, but her eyes never stopped speaking. They told me love. They told me desire. They told me forever. And in every glance, in every silent night tangled in sheets and heat, I realized something deeper. Her silence wasn't weakness. It was survival. And her eyes had never lied. Because from the moment we met, they told me everything. Even when her lips stayed silent.